Talking with Tradition Edition 2023 brought together practitioners, scholars and observers of Indian traditions in knowledge, art and jurisprudence.
This year's Talking with Tradition is on the idea of ownership, intellectual property, but with reference to what traditional performing arts has always known as their own process and their own material. So we're asking the question, can creative genealogies be owned?
Over 2 enlightening days, participants delved deep into the essence of Indian performing arts traditions and their challenges with regard to ownership and intellectual property in the modern world.
And we realized that there are two things that remained as questions for us. One is, of course, transformation. Certainly, everybody is saying things are changing. Things are changing, things are changing. It was not. Some people, you have different languages in which people say it. Scholars will, and historians will account for it in a certain way. They will speak about institutional, organizational changes. Practitioners will speak about changes in value systems. Audiences will speak about differences in the way they are experiencing and so on. So one of the things that we thought is common is transformation, and especially the transformation of locations where we are finding art forms. And then came the big shift to the technological space. Now we have the digital space as where art is experienced. This 100 years of shift from very intimately experiencing art to actually again intimately experiencing art in your own little various technological devices. There is a very big shift. What is this shift? And how are all of us coming to it? What are our insights? Can we share them? Can we make the experience make sense a little better? These are questions we're going to we are not throwing it open, they will come. They will naturally come in these conversations.
When we talk about owning, are we talking about owning up art or its tradition, or are we talking about its genealogy? If the theme chosen is owning the tradition, it is absolutely different from owning an art event, owning an art product, owning an art piece.
Now, this is a traditional copyright regime, so there's nothing wrong in it, right? But whatever I work is based on the Toda's contribution of knowledge. So talking about forms of songs is again something that they told me and pointed out to me, see, this is how these are varies. This is what the variations are. So it's a knowledge that I directly took from them and giving a voice here. So can I represent these in digital or in other forms? So there's a lot of talk about fair and care.
What we are trying to do is to pick up certain ideas that are important for artists and their audiences and their communities, and we are trying to build conversations around them, and we really want to develop a language where we can all speak to each other and mean the same things or similar things at least, and to grow this conversation.
The problem with the digital media itself is it makes something intangible, something very tangible, and therefore you get the feeling of, hey, I own it. Which as compared to maybe 20 years back, in fact, when I was doing my master's and our teachers would teach us through anecdotes, that those anecdotes would play in our minds.
When you are forced to learn new composition, is there scope for internalization? Are you brave enough to venture new phrases or any unattended, that is unpracticed phrases or unpracticed songs on the concert platform as we did? Do you have that space? These are the questions we need to ask. And in the context of YouTube and the copyrights, we are tampering with the actual raga of the composition given in the video. I was discussing with Savita. Mudikonda and Venkatramayar, in that parampara, they sing the Ninnuvina of Shyama Sastri in the raga Abheri. So if someone has posted Ninnuvina Abheri Rupakatalam Shyama Sastri, other one is posting the same song, but Ninnuvina Riti Golai Rupakatalam Shyama Sastri. Other one is posting as Ninnuvina Ananda Bhairavi Rupakatalam. Which one is authentic? The same composition, same rendering. Just because you will fall into the copyrights area, you are altering with the title of the composition and raga of the composition. Is it right? Are you passing the correct information to the listeners?
तुम्ही जेव्हा हे सगळं ओपन ठेवता तेव्हा तुम्हाला असं वाटतं का की तुमचं आर्थिक नुकसान होतंय काहीतरी ते ओपन ठेवल्यामुळे?
नाही तसं नाही ना. मुक्त जर ठेवलं ना, आता माझी एक कॅपॅसिटी आहे बुद्धीची, तुमची अजून त्याच्यापेक्षा जास्त असू शकते. तर माझं जे आहे त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला अजून आयडिया सुचली तर ते अजून आपण कसं म्हणतो 4 चांद लावले त्याच्या पुढे अजून काहीतरी एक्सपेरिमेंट होईल म्हणून हे ओपन थोडंसं म्युझिकच्या क्षेत्रात तर असायला.
We are really thrilled that we are now in the second year of Talking with Tradition, and what started as a passion, as maybe a personal quest to understand things better, has gathered a community around itself, and this will grow hopefully, and we will all come together in listening to each other, listening better, and creating paths forward for the future.
Our living traditions, our performing traditions have been performed, have changed, have evolved at different points of time in very specific socio-cultural, economic, political contexts. So when I'm trying to document something, say 50 years, 70 years, 100 years later, do I understand what happened 75 years ago? Completely, all the sides of the story, to be able to document it objectively.
Digital technologies are very vulnerable to obsolescence, right? So we have been digitizing, but we have not thought about what happens when this particular technology gets obsolete. How do we continuously upgrade our archives? Because that will then allow them to become, accessible, retrievable. What is the resource intensity of all of this, intensiveness of all of this? Because digital archives don't come cheap.
The event was a platform for open discussions, insightful talks, where questions such as who owns art knowledge, do we need a radical conceptual rethinking that can be used by traditional arts practitioners in the digital space, were explored.
If we look at Shastra or a tradition as a form of grammar, and we are allowed to play around with it, and it has been passed on across the generations, then how do we have the right to protect something which is created out of it? Why are we really fussing about having copyright?
In intellectual property, if anybody has to assert the right, it is the creator. So the courts will not take any suo motu kind of action saying that it is hurting the tradition. So whoever is a part of the community, they have to take cognizance of it. So I cannot approach the court, or I cannot file any infringement relating to that. Only that community can do it.
Let's drive this conversation from back to front, okay? Not from front to back in the sense, what is law, what does it allow, what does it permit, and how will you use it? As an artist, what do you want to protect?
The soul of the event was brought to life through mesmerizing traditional music and dance performances. The vibrant engagement of the audience highlighted the sense of community, enabling a shared experience that lies at the heart of traditional Indian arts. As we conclude this remarkable event, we invite you to continue the dialogue and an open exploration of traditional Indian arts in the modern era.